Hello guys and welcome to the Los Blancos podcast. Today I will be discussing the Valencia game and what we can do to prevent some of their best players. We will also be doing a 2-game review of the Inter Milan game and the Celta Vigo game. Now today it's just me, no Sean. He's not available today, so I'm sure you guys will enjoy this episode as much as you normally do. So yeah, that's it from me for now. Join us after this short interval. Firstly, we have a game versus Valencia. Now, we've got a difficult game, and Valencia have shot up the table recently. They have really started to look like a side that know each other, that can play well with each other, And I think that has got to do with Jose Bordalas' arrival. Now, previously, Jose Bordalas coached Getafe, and Getafe subsequently got into Europe year after year. Last season was a bit of an off year, but, you can't blame him, really, because the talent at Getafe was so good in the Division level, really. And I think the job that Jose Bordalas did went so far under the radar. It was monumental what he did with that Getafe team, who realistically had no La Liga, maybe Janet, but there weren't too many La Liga level players for Getafe last season. Now he's moved to Valencia, and Valencia have bagged themselves a really good coach and a guy that is going to do really well with them. He's brought in, you could say that Valencia underperformed last year. They definitely did underperform. But I'd say that realistically, Valencia, they could do really well because they've got great players, really. They've got players who are good enough to be in La Liga, thrive in La Liga, I think. And I think Valencia, as a whole, are a good unit. Last season they were not. They had no cohesion as a team. But this season they just automatically, because of Jose Bordalas, look like a coherent unit, And I think that has to be applauded from Jose Bordalas. I think some of the star players in that team, we've all seen Gonzalo Guedes' talent. We know of him and we know how good he is. It's just, he's just not... He's been really inconsistent. And last season he was poor. He was out and out poor for Valencia last season. So I think ultimately we've got to stop Gonzalo Guedes because he looks like the player he was when he was bought from PSG. A guy, an exciting, quick dribbler who's just so dangerous on the ball. Guedes is one of the most talented players in that Valencia team. He is fantastic. I used to really like Guedes. Last season was really bad for him, and I think as a result, Valencia being bad as well. Not only just him, most of the team were poor last season. But I think Guedes is the main threat from this Valencia team. There's quite a few threats. Guedes is the main threat. He looks altogether a fantastic player now. He's taking on players, he's beating players, most importantly. He's taking shots off and goal, he's creating chances. Having that player alongside someone like Maxi Gomez, Maxi Gomez is just that type of player who's just a bit naughty and just makes fouls here and there, but who cares if he does, because he's just annoying the defenders and he's winding up the defenders. That Maxi Gomez is a fantastic player and he's got a good record against Real Madrid as well. Let's not forget that as well. Maxi Gomez is a dangerous striker and he's definitely to the level of Europa League, maybe Champions League. So we need to be careful of Maxi Gomez as well. But we also need to be careful of Carlos Soler, who's also looked fantastic this season under Jose Bordalas. One player who, originally had great potential, and you thought maybe he could go far. He hasn't had a good season. That season where he broke into the first team. The season following that, he was poor, but he's back in it, and he's back amongst the goals and assists. And I think he's a fantastic player too. So we need to be careful of these players. Ultimately they win fouls as well. So we need to make sure we don't lose any fouls, because last season in the at Mestalla, we had a poor game where we lost 4-1 against Valencia, and if I remember correctly, Carlos Soler scored a hat-trick of penalties. Now that shows our ill discipline during that match. We've got to keep disciplined, and I think that's why I think we should play Alaba at centre-back today. I like Nacho at left-back against Inter Milan. I will say that. I will be talking about that later in the next section. But I think Alaba, centre-back, his discipline record. He's never got a red card in his career. I think we need that discipline, that guy to just keep the defence calm. And I think we need to keep organised, because the minute that this Borderlands team gets a sniff of disorganisation, they'll just pounce. And I think with Borderlands team, they know what to do at all times. They're very intelligent, and I think that's why Borderlands is, one of the most underrated coaches of this of the last few years. His work's gone under the radar. He makes the players run like a lot before training sessions. I think it was like 5 kilometers every training session, and he has to do it within a time, which it might sound standard, but I think it's something like you have to run 5k in under 30 minutes, which may not be a problem for experienced professional, but someone like me, that's going to be a bit more difficult. So yeah, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for us to win it at Valencia. It's a difficult game, no doubt about that. I think Vinicius can definitely continue his hot streak. It's either Daniel Vaz, he's going to play against, or Hugo Guillamon. And I think, those two players, all respect to them, but Vinicius can easily burn them. These are two players who aren't the quickest. They are more of, Guillamon is more of a right-sided centre-back, and Vaz is also a centre-mid turned centre-back, right-back, So I think Vinicius should be able to burn them for pace. I think he should be able to continue his hot streak. He's been doing fantastically recently. And I think we should be giving Rodrigo the start after that brilliant performance. Maybe not the performance, but definitely the goal against Inter Milan. He continues his good form against Inter Milan. I think he deserves to start against Valencia. I think also we should, this might be a bit debatable, but I think we should maybe give Camavinga the run out. Now, one of the biggest talking points is Casemiro. Now, a lot of people have been criticising Casemiro over the last few weeks, and I want to say that the guy hasn't had a rest in about 3 years, mate. He never gets any rest. There's no player that's going to be like him, and as me and Sean discussed over the last few weeks, about maybe signing a CDM to replace or be backup to him. We've discussed about there's no player like him. We're not going to get too many of those players now, because they're going to all come in the Busquets mould. So someone like Casemiro is going to be hard to come by more often than not, and I think really it's going to be difficult for us to replace him or find an adequate replacement for him. So I think, if we give Antonio Blanco the start, Antonio Blanco is a good player, and I like Antonio Blanco a lot. I really like Antonio Blanco, but I think he works better in a 2 CDM formation rather than one, because he's not known for his tough tackling, and that's what Real Madrid need, because our fullbacks they're gonna go really high, so we need that extra CDM to drop in when we need him to. So I think ultimately we should be giving Antonio Blancos a start against someone like, not Valencia, because Valencia is a very difficult opponent, and I think more often than not, if we do start Antonio Blanco, they're going to rip us in half because of the fact that we're not going to realistically match them in the midfield when they're going to run past us because our midfield is slow. So I think Fede has to start in the midfield. Camavinga, I think, should start in the midfield. I think Modric should be given the rest. He's 36 now. So realistically, Modric should be benched for this game, I think, personally. But we shall see. And in all due course, I think, I'm recording this a bit later than usual, so this might come out a little bit later than usual. I think, nonetheless, this should come out before the Valencia game, or at least, a few minutes after kickoff. Let's hope it does come out before the Valencia game. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game. This is our first proper test. Celta Vigo was a good team to play against, and I do stand by my praise of Celta Vigo. I think they are a fantastic team, but this is the first proper test. We've been going up in the opponent's ability. Next up, I think we could only go higher from here, where we go like Villarreal and Real Sociedad. So I think this is a very difficult opponent, one that we haven't had success in. This has been a sticking point for us over the last few years. Let's try and right those wrongs, and let's get the win here. So that's the end of this part of the podcast. We're going to be moving on to the analysis of the Celta Vigo and the Inter Milan game next. Join us after this short interval. Okay, in the last part of today's podcast, we will be doing a quick analysis of the Inter Milan and Celta Vigo games. Now, obviously, I'm here on my own, as I mentioned in the intro. It's not a scenario we've been in for too many times, but we'll do my best to give my personal analysis over the last two games, and I think we're gonna do it as a joint analysis where I see, positives in both, maybe criticisms in both, and stuff that's similar. So I think that's where these two come into play. I think these two games were very different. I would say the Inter Milan game was very, very difficult for us to play in, and I think ultimately getting the win there was, we played our heart out there, but we didn't deserve the win there, to be totally honest. Inter Milan outplayed us. I think one area of the pitch where we particularly struggled in, I think we should have seen it coming, was aerially, because we know when you've got Edin Dzeko up front, you've got to stop the crosses coming in. But we did not do that, and Edin Dzeko just kept on getting his head on the ball, and luckily Courtois was on his A game, because otherwise we'd have been done for in that game, because Edin Dzeko was magnificent, and as much as I've doubted him, I thought he was fantastic. I thought Nicolo Barella was fantastic as well. I think Nicolo Barella is a fantastic player. But I think, as a team, I think it wasn't good enough against Inter Milan. It wasn't good enough where I saw, midfield was getting outrun, outpassed. And I think we just couldn't. We were just looking to Vinicius a bit too much. I still think Vinicius is a fantastic player now. This season he's been fantastic, truly world class. But I think we were just looking to him too much. We were looking for him to make the runs, make the passes, make everything happen. You've got 11 men on the field, 10 outfield players. Look to someone else. You've got other players. And I think, reliance on Vinicius isn't good no matter what. If we have Mbappe on the other side, if we had Mbappe on the other side and we were looking to play him in as equally, then that would have been fine, I think. But the fact is, we were just looking to Vinicius a bit too much. Inter Milan could have predicted it. Luckily, Vinicius was too quick for Inter Milan, and ultimately he was outdone. He'd outdone Dumfries on the right, and he just outran him as well as Darmian. How is Darmian starting in 2021? It just baffles me, But anyway, nonetheless, I think we could have done better on the right. I think Vasquez, he had a poor performance, really. He kept on losing the ball. It was quite sloppy. I think with Vasquez, it's done for him at right wing. I think he can't do it anymore. I don't think he's technically adept enough to play on the right wing anyway. I think right back is the go-to position for him nowadays. I think his ability to cross the ball is very good, but he didn't get himself into those positions a lot yesterday, so it wasn't possible. So I think ultimately Vasquez, he's not a right winger anymore. He has to play in right back anyway nowadays. But I think we should move on to the Celta Vigo game, and I think in contrast to the other game, we were absolutely fantastic in this game. We started sluggish, and Mina, Franco Cervi, Denis Suarez just kept on skinning us, but eventually we grew into the game. Benzema just pulled us out of the mud, got himself a hat trick in the end, and he took the penalty and he scored. Well done to him. And I think Vinicius looked lively as ever, got himself on the score sheet with a composed finish, which is something. When I saw that game, I was scared. I was thinking, oh no, this is typical Vinicius. A position for him to just fluff it and send it into Rosette. But that was the type of position where we would have seen Vinicius hit it into Rosette, but he hit it, just placed it, just calmly just placed it around the keeper, and it was all good. So I think we could have definitely improved defensively. I think the fact that Mina just kept on skinning us, Cervi kept on that finish, where he turned it and then just put it onto the post and then just tapped it in. It was a good finish from him. Personally, I think we could have dealt with that better, stopped the cross from getting in, and that's where someone like Mendy comes in. I think Mendy's importance to the team is just, I think we can see it now. With someone like Miguel, you can see where his abilities come into the fray, where his link-up play is good. He can cross the ball very well. I think that's the difference between him and Mendy, where Miguel can actually cross the ball, whereas Mendy's just defensively, Mendy's so much better than anyone else in La Liga at the moment in time. Maybe Jose is a bit better, but I think that's where Mendy comes in to Real Madrid. I think also we saw the Nacho at left back thing. I think Nacho at left back is a good idea because Nacho is obviously a very versatile footballer, and he's so good anywhere he plays. But I think realistically going forward, it's gonna have to be Militao, Alaba, and for left back it has to be Mendy, because ultimately I think when it comes to crunch time, you can't play Nacho left back because he might get skinned by someone like Salah. Salah would just absolutely run riot against Nacho. You need to match someone like him for pace, and Nacho isn't going to do that. Also, I think one thing has to be said, that Carlo finally understands that Miguel is actually a top prospect. If he played for someone like Barcelona, you wouldn't hear the end of it. That's the thing, and I think his breakthrough into the first team has gone so far unnoticed. No one knows about Miguel yet, and I think he needs to have that one breakout performance where he's just like, he's truly fantastic. He gets like 3 assists and he's just fantastic throughout the whole game. And then people start realising, wait, this guy's actually pretty decent. So I think he needs that one big performance. And I think then people will realise that this guy is the real deal. He's not just a Castilla product that just came into the team for one game, that came into the team just to fill in because of our injury crisis. No, he's actually the real deal. And he is genuinely very good. He could become world class. That's a big statement from me, but he could become world class. You know, he possesses all the correct abilities for a fullback, for a modern day fullback. You know, he's a brilliant all round fullback, and I think that's what's good about him. You know, too many fullbacks are just either good at one thing or the other. He's good at everything, so I think we've got a player there who's generally fantastic. So that's the end of today's podcast. I know it was a bit of a short one, but there was no Sean to discuss about these points. So, you know, I've done it on my own, but I'm sure you guys would have enjoyed it as much. You know, it was a bit shorter, so, you know, it would be a bit easier to listen to and a bit, you know, quicker, a bit better. So I think it was a bit shorter, but I think you guys would have enjoyed it. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.